So Michigan football just fired their head coach again.
Wild.
And this time he's facing felony charges. That makes my heart smile as a Ohio State grad.
Didn't they just win like the national championship? That was Michigan, right?
No. Ohio State won last year. That was a couple of years ago, but we
Oh,
don't
okay.
we don't have to talk about that. That was 2 years ago. But since then, sign stealing scandal, staff member indicted for hacking athletes' accounts, and now a coach whose marriage, career, and mental health unraveled in the most epic crash out that we've seen in a
So
48-hour period.
it's a crazy crash out. And as I was like reading it, realizing like, oh, he's got three kids. And so they are watching their dad very publicly crash out.
Yeah, the assistant coach said, "What do you say?" Said this is a malfunctioning organization.
I would think it's more than that. And it really makes me wonder and raise this question of like, what is the institution doing, right? Like, what are we asking of our institutions?
Yeah, so now we got to get to it because this is a beautiful parents and professors topic. It's the first time we've been doing a lot of parenting stuff, but now we can get back into institutional stuff. So, like, how do institutions get broken? What do we tell our kids when people in charge fail this spectacularly? And what does it look like to actually fix a culture, not just fire whoever is giving you the latest set of problems?
So let's get into it.
Go parents, go parents, go parents and professors. Go parents, go parents, go parents and professors.
Welcome to episode 60 of the Parents and Professors podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Stephen Williams, and I'm joined by.
I'm Dr. Marjorie Dormer Williams, and we are so excited to get into this Michigan scandal story. Um, and in particular, really thinking about like the human element of it as parents, as professors, as individuals who are engaged with academic institutions all the time. And I feel like that's an element that really hasn't been talked a lot about. So we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, so this is the first time in a long time that the parents and professors topics have come together in such a beautiful way. So we're excited to talk about that. So for those of you who are not familiar, let me give a little bit of a breakdown, and then we can start getting into some of the reactions and the directions that we want to go.
Oh, wait.
So,
I just want to, before we get into any of this, just sharing again, anything we say is our own personal opinions and not
oh yeah,
representative of any of our organizations. We are not lawyers or legal advice. This is for educational entertainment purposes only. So you guys know the drill.
yeah, we're not your mama, uh, though we are parents. Yeah. So, where do we start? So, I'll give like a super quick
Yeah.
snapshot because this has been in the zeitgeist for a little bit, but this is the first time that we're circling back to really talk about it. So, on December 10th, Michigan fired their head coach Sharon Moore after an outside investigation found credible evidence that he was engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member.
I was
Um, you gotta be careful, yo. I'm not trying to get sued.
allegedly.
Yeah, exactly. So, Moore, who is 39 years old and is married with three young daughters. Um,
Can I?
but that's the well, let me get the
Okay.
whole thing.
Okay.
But here's where it escalates, right? So hours after being fired, he allegedly barged his way into the apartment of the woman that he'd been having an affair with after she reported the relationship to the University of Michigan. And after that, according to prosecutors, he threatened to kill himself. I heard that it was with a butter knife and scissors, which
Yo,
is a deep
wait,
connection to how unserious this whole
both
situation is.
a butter knife and scissors?
Yeah, that's what he's trying to murk himself with. So breaks into her house, threatening to kill himself. Um, like, look what you did to me. And now he's facing three criminal charges,
Wow.
including felony third degree home invasion and stalking. And he was taken to a local hospital for a mental health evaluation after his arrest. And he's currently out on bond with GPS monitoring.
Oh, oh, so much. There's so much happening. And that's just the summary, right? Like that's not even what's going on in the
I
institutional
mean,
perspective.
that's the summary of his specific foolishness. But the University of Michigan in the recent past has had a whole lot of issues. They had a Stein stealing incident. They had Jim Harbaugh about to get suspended for NCAA violations before he went back to the NFL. they had a federal indictment for one of their offense coordinators like hacking into computer accounts of college access
What?
athletes. Yeah, I mean, there's so many multiple recurring crazy violations around the University of Michigan, and this isn't just related to like, I happen to be an Ohio State graduate, and this tickles me deeply and completely. But there's been a whole lot of crazy stuff going on there for the last couple of years, and it feels like this is just all coming to a head.
Right.
And this is also like a little bit after in January 22, the University of Michigan president,
Did he get fired?
yes, for
Okay.
inappropriate conduct with an employee, right? So like this is kind of
It's
this is kind
almost
of
the ultimate, like, what is it? It's not you, it's me. Like,
yeah.
it's Michigan. Like, Michigan is clearly the problem in this scenario.
Yeah, so there's been a scramble. I mean, they have a bowl game on New Year's Eve, so there's been a scramble to figure out what's going on with the new coach, who's going to be taking care of things with the bowl. I mean, they have NIL and they have a lot of high profile athletes, obviously, because Michigan has been one of the storied football programs in the country for forever. And so now they're worried about a whole bunch of their players leaving in the transfer portal. So yeah, the this has led to a complete and utter mess.
I mean, it is amazing to watch an institution melt down in so many ways. And I know when I initially saw and heard the story, again, I don't follow college football, and I was like, oh no, he's black. Oh.
Wait, were you so are we being honest or are you gonna be because he is black and he's young, but he was married to a white woman and his affair person was
Also,
also a white woman.
also, and it was just like, there's so right, it's not just the story is bad enough by itself, right? Without any of those details. And then you throw that in, and I immediately thought, Jonathan Majors, like you are self-destructing in a way that makes no sense to me, given how much you have, right? Like you've thrown away millions of dollars. You are now being charged with felonies. And like, let's be honest, black men can't be out here assaulting white women. Like that's just no. Like just no. That's not a good look for you. Regardless of
You can't even be in an argument with them. You don't want to be.
and I think one of the stories I read was like his wife was the one who called the police that he was crashing out. And I just feel like, you know, we all have our struggles and we all have our challenges. And I just think like, man, what does this mean for your kids, right? And I don't know how old his kids are, but
Oh, they're pretty young. I'd have
it's
to look it up, but they're pretty young.
like this is a thing that's it's not gonna go away, right? And like, how do you make sense of this and like talk to them about what's going on? Like, daddy might go to jail because he was with someone who wasn't mommy and like felt really strongly about it and couldn't control his emotions. He had very big feelings, right? Like, what do
Well, hold
we?
on, because I mean, do you even tell the truth about that to the children, especially like given
Mm,
their age, right? Because so I think
also true,
about
yeah.
there are a lot of reasons that people end marriages. And
Hmm.
we're also assuming because we don't know his wife might stick it out. Like
Right.
maybe there's something going on. Maybe she's gonna say like, "Hey, you obviously were under a lot of pressure. Like that's a really big job. Like I'm gonna try to help you out." So what do you share? So say this is a situation that you're facing because this is also the type of situation that could lead to a co-parenting situation, right? Yeah, yeah. So
More
like,
should
what
listen
is
to the
the
podcast.
yeah like what's the way that you approach the conversation? Like, and how
Well,
much truth is infused in it?
yeah, I think and we've had conversations with our kids about, things that are going on. And I feel like in a situation like this, I was exaggerating, but like I wouldn't share details, but I think it is important to have conversations with kids to let them know what's going on or help them understand and process in a way that's age appropriate. And so, hey, dad is having a really hard time. And especially when mental health is involved, right? Because like how much do they understand or know, right? Like at that sort of age or at any age, right? And so I think it's really important to whatever his wife decides to do, um, right? That we're not bad mouthing dad or, um, you know, I wouldn't even say painting him as the villain, although that might feel really easy in the story. Um, and that maybe like less is more. Like, mom and dad are going through a hard time and um we're not sure what's gonna happen next. And, when you do things that you're not supposed to do, there are consequences for your actions. And I think like those things are important messages to at any age, right? Like especially when you have kids, that there are consequences for your actions. And they may not always be immediate, but you know, it can't just be, I think as parents, we can't just allow ourselves to like put, brush things under the rug or ignore it or not talk about it.
So I guess I'm interested in a couple of different directions you can take this, right? So my first question is there a pathway to redemption? So if you find yourself in the situation that you could be the Michigan coach, you could be because there's
For
people cheat
who?
for all I mean, people
Okay.
cheat for all kinds of different reasons, right? And
Yeah.
I think that if we're being honest in exploring the situation for all the different aspects, I don't know the nature of this man's home life.
Right.
Like
His
if
marriage could
you
have been trash. She
yeah,
could have been
it could be
abusing
like
him or whatever.
yeah, she's crazy. Like, yo, she stole the babies from me. I was just over here trying to mind my business and, she pounced on me and I just had to take care. So I guess the first thing and the thing that I was most interested in, and it's a conversation that I wasn't able to have with a lot of my peers because everybody was so invested in just calling him stupid that there wasn't a whole lot of space to be like, all right, well,
Mm,
where's the nuance in this situation? Like, what
yeah.
if the reason that he fled to this coworker was because things at home were terrible? Or like, what if the reason, what if maybe they had an arrangement, maybe they had a conversation before this and it just got out of hand. I think there are a lot
Hmm.
of ways that something that could be relatively innocent or could start one way and end up another could have you crashing out publicly. And so I'm interested in like the perspective taking piece of it, but also the what
Mm.
is repair available and what does repair look like if it is available?
Repair for who? For him? For
I think
more?
I think you got to think about repair in terms of so for me, I would enter it first as a father. So if I'm
Hmm.
doing my perspective taking and I'm like, all right, I would never put myself in a situation because I think that some of it is just nuts, right? Like you're the major HR violation of being a professor that I'm like most aware of immediately is like carnal knowledge of coworkers, right? Like you
Not
can't be
carnal
having some, but
knowledge.
you can't be having somebody. The craziest thing to me is like you have somebody in your supervisory chain that you're messing around with and it's an open secret. And not only is it an open secret, but like you have it on the record where you've doubled this person's salary like
Crazy.
where yeah it's very easy so I think some of it I have to engage as a person who would be like I would never find myself in that situation because that's nuts. However, if I did, then what's next? It's certainly not like crash out kicking her door and threaten to murk myself,
With a
but
butter knife.
yeah,
All
but
right, that's
like
not funny.
yeah, but like in this situation, so like how do you think through like where you go and like what repair looks
Mm.
like?
Well, I think it's interesting, and again, there's so many parts to this story, right? So is it so like you said, right? Like as a father, who are you most responsible to, and like what does that mean? But I don't know that feels like enough, right? So what is he going to do? Go on an apology tour and, pull out the podium. I'm so sorry. This isn't the man who I am. This isn't what we stand for. I apologize to my wife and children. And not to say that he doesn't mean it, right? Because I am
I mean, he
sure
also
he's regretting his choices at this moment.
he foreclosed some of that possibility just by the epicness of the crash out.
Right.
But if I were like his PR person or if I were somebody, I was like, yo, just do what these politicians do. Just disappear for a little bit, let the news cycle change, and go get a job at like a HBCU and work your way back up.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, and I think that's the part of me that feels kind of cynical about all this, and not just for him but for the institution as well, right? So we just listed what, five six recent violations of Michigan staff and institutional leaders in the last couple of years. And like, so what does that ultimately mean? Does it lead to institutional change? Does anything get better? Or is it, well, this is what everybody does? And in fact, we've had conversations with folks where that is the sentiment. Well, this happens all the time in athletics. Like it's not, it's an open secret everywhere, right? Like it's not just Michigan. This is a
and if we wanted
everywhere
you,
problem.
Yeah, if
Yes.
we wanted you, we would just sweep it under the rug and we would find a way to continue to let you do your thing.
Yeah. And so even though he's crashed out and, maybe or maybe he doesn't do the apology tour, I don't know that, like you said, like what is it, he goes away for a little bit, shows up somewhere else, and their framing is, well, we believe in second chances and da 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 and all of that. And again, not to say it's not true, but there's a part of me that feels really cynical about all of this.
Yeah,
And
so what
that,
is help me unpack that because that's the part that I'm interested in. So there's familiarity with infidelity, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm always thinking about, hey, if I were in this situation, how would I want to be treated? Or like if I were in this situation, what would be the avenues where people aren't just cynical, like where the assumption isn't
Mm,
just like, oh, you're just saying all the things that you feel like you need to say. Because I think that you have to do that a lot in marriage. I think you have to do that a lot in divorce. I think you have to do that a lot in
apologize.
co-parent. Well, like in co-parenting, it's not just apologize. It's like you're the the weight of an apology has a lot to do with the expectation of change behavior in the
Right.
aftermath of the apology. And so if you're dealing with somebody where they're like, yo, I don't believe you, like, I don't believe that you're going to change. I don't believe that you're sorry. I don't believe that what you're telling me is honest. And
Hmm.
I think that that's hard. And I think that that like applies to our relationship where it's like, hey, you could end up divorced from somebody that you otherwise enjoy because you just don't believe them. Like, I don't believe that repair is available. So
Hmm.
what is that? Like, what's the non-cynical take, right? Like,
Oh, I mean, I think it takes time, right? With any of these um crash outs. And I don't want to diminish the fact that this man might also have mental health issues that we're unaware of, right? Like that's a whole other
yeah,
piece of it.
I
Because
think
like you
that's,
said,
yeah, I
I
think
wouldn't
that's
do
hard.
that.
I think that's hard too
Um,
because I'm always worried. Like, I have people in and around my life who use suicide as a threat to escape accountability.
ooh.
And I feel like that's been leveraged on a couple of different points where it's like, you're not gonna kill yourself. You just don't want to be accountable for the bullshit that you're on. And so you're
Hmm.
telling people like, oh, so I think that's hard, but it also that's a place where I feel myself getting cynical, where I'm
Right?
like really? Like you got time to text OnlyFans models during halftime of games, but like now you want to kill yourself?
Whoa,
Like,
wait. I'm sorry. Is was the employee an
no, that's
OnlyFans
actually
model? Or
no,
this
no,
is
no, 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 no.
separate?
This is a separate joint. Yeah, no, he's got some wild. It
So
the rabbit hole is so deliciously deep. That's why I'm like, I gotta reel us into like, okay, what's
to
the
focus.
next? Yeah,
But I think it's difficult when, and I think that's a good example. It sometimes feel like we look at past behavior and we make um, guesses, assumptions, predictions about what that means for how that person's going to navigate and move in the future. And in some cases, that makes sense, right? It's how we've evolved. It's how we keep ourselves safe. Our brain being able to process things really quickly to make decisions. And at the same time, we need to, I think, know that and understand it while also leave space for the possibility that, well, this person might actually mean it, right? And this, I love the word crash out. This instant might be enough to get him to change, right? So the OnlyFans thing and the cheating text messages, and you had this affair, and you broke into this lady's house, and all of these things. Maybe this is enough to get him to, maybe get the help that he needs mentally, to really think about and consider repair in his marriage and his relationship, to think about what it means for him as a father and like who he wants to be for his kids, right? um, Going forward. And I also think that it's important. I do believe in forgiveness and I do believe in change. Like I think I have a tattoo that says it. So like I think it's a difficult thing to balance. And I think you can be skeptical while also leaving room for change. And so I think, we talked about his wife in this example. We don't know what their marriage was before this happened. And I think many people can look at the situation and think, okay, whatever it was, it is now, a very public, messy thing.
it has been
And
changed.
yeah, right.
It has been changed. And in fact, if I were to insert my own wife into this, I believe that she thinks that this is grounds for murder, like
Oh,
crime of passion, like, like, yeah,
snapped.
yeah,
Just,
like Tiger Woods' wife
oh yeah.
had golf clubs at her disposal. Like
Hmm.
he's lucky that she didn't have a gun or
Yeah.
some other murder weapon immediately available to her.
Yes, right. And so I have a friend who like we've had this conversation and it's like so the price for infidelity is death is what you're saying. And I'm like,
Yeah,
well, no, not death, not intentionally, but
I feel like it's a very gendered thing. And I don't want to go too deep into that just because I don't know that my thoughts are fully formed, but I feel like
uh
there's a great deal of comfort with women doing physical and bodily harm to men over infidelity, but the reverse would never be okay. Like
no,
if you find out that your shorty's cheating on you and you beat the shit out of her, that's not justified. But
no.
like if a woman finds out a man is cheating on her and beats the shit out of him, that feels socially acceptable, which is
It's
crazy to me.
acceptable. We laugh at it.
Yeah.
It's a thing. In fact, I think did I send you the clip? There's some woman who was on a plane with her man and I don't know what happened before they got on the plane. Maybe he looked at somebody or said something to her about him being able to look at people and she flipped out, like screaming at the top of her lungs. There were kids on the plane, like right behind her. There was people in front of her. Then she starts hitting him, and like the flight attendants are trying to break it up. And they're like, ma'am, you're gonna get charged with assault. And she's like, that's fine. I don't care, but you need to tell. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so insane. A little bit funny, but really insane. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that everyone's just kind of like watching, right? Like watching it happen, pulling out their phones to record.
Yeah,
But if
some of the
it,
double standards are crazy.
right,
Like
if
they're
it had
really
been the
crazy.
reverse, in not in all cases, because there have been some crazy things that happen, but in most cases, I would hope that someone would step in and intervene and that
Nobody
we
would
wouldn't
just
look at that and be like, oh, that's cool.
yeah, nobody would just record it and be on bystander. Like they would be like, somebody has to come get this guy immediately and lock him up forever.
So it makes me think about, is there a difference in the the public nature of how this is all unfolded, right? So I think it'd be different if, hey, this guy had had an affair with a coworker, but none of us knew, right? It all got handled internally. It never became a public story. Does that mean something different than for his marriage?
Well, I don't think that's fair because I think and I've seen situations like this before and I feel like I've lived situations like this before. So you don't get to dictate like how somebody responds to you wronging them. So like if you
Hmm.
publicly embarrass me, if you publicly embarrass me or you privately embarrass me, I'm still embarrassed. And whatever
Hmm.
direction or reactions come from that, like you're going to kind of have to deal with. I think the scale could be a little bit crazier, only in so much as if I'm perspective taking and I'm the wife or I'm the partner that's been wronged in the situation. And you've not only wronged me, but now people know my face on national news and television because
Yeah.
I'm the victim of your stupidity. I think that's that's very painful, but it's not necessarily more painful than if only I know and I find out. Like, oh, I went through your phone, or like, oh, I went through. It's just the scale is
Mm.
crazy and it's different because now there's so many more people that are asking you if you're okay. There's so many more people that are right. I still don't think it's grounds for murder, but
No, I think we maybe we need to say that explicitly. I think we can
like,
all agree that infidelity is not grounds for murder. Okay, like let's
yeah,
just if you have one takeaway from this episode,
like,
it's just
like, yeah,
not
absolutely,
murder.
yeah. But I could see your willingness to forgive being constrained by your perception that you're never gonna get away from the story,
Right.
like, or that there's nowhere safe for you to be or to go, even with your children, because people don't respect you. Like paparazzi and news programs and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to be like, "Hey, this is a struggling parent who's just trying to figure out what's next." They're gonna be like, "So, shove a microphone in your face, shove a microphone in your kid's face. What do you think about daddy?" Right? Like, what
Yeah.
do you think about mommy? Like, it's a that's a tough situation to deal with.
I also, and to your point about like earlier where you said about, like HR or policies or like what are our professional expectations, I do feel like the institution has a significant role to play in like how all of this is played out, right? The fact that people have said, "Oh, this was known," like everybody knew this was a thing, or "Hey, I'm gonna
Open
double the
secret.
salary," right? A known secret, or I'm gonna double the salary of this person and put them in a position that, how are they qualified for this? Why are they getting this significant 100% increase in pay? Like what? Somebody had to sign off on that. Like we both work at universities. You can't just double someone's salary willy-nilly. That's not how it works. Like there is paperwork, there is processing, there are forms and files to be asked, there is fucking job title. Like it is such a process, which means people saw it and were like, okay, that's fine. So like,
So so
mhm,
let's approach this. Let's approach it from like an organizational analysis standpoint, right?
yes,
If you're let's put on your consultant hat. You're
okay.
brought in and you have to figure out how to fix things at the University of Michigan, given the string of
Ooh,
scandals. And we know because organization scholars and system scholars, this is not an individual bad actor situation. This is
yeah.
systemic issues. There's like institutional rot at the core of what's going on here because so many scandals and so many opportunities where people basically have to look the other way in order to justify the behavior of the actors. Like that means something different. So you, as Marjorie Dorman Williams, PhD, you're coming in to analyze the organization and figure out like what are the next steps and what do they do next as an organization. So like a football program at university, what do they do next? Like what do you say?
Are we looking just at the football program or are we looking at the whole institution? I
Oh,
think
I
you
think you
start with
have
the
to
football program.
I think you start with the football program, but it
Hmm.
also clearly is a larger institutional problem because if your president's getting caught up in stuff and your entire football program is getting caught up, and that's to say that, and because we do know that scandals are rampant everywhere, if the football program has this much crazy stuff going on, and then institutional leadership has this much crazy stuff going on, I'm sure we could find some other wild stuff. So let's start with the football program and then expand out. You're the consultant that you've been brought in to assess and evaluate the situation and provide reasonable next steps for policy and praxis to get the institution back on
The
track.
practice. Sure. Yeah. So, I think my first step is absolutely doing a needs assessment. So we are going to be talking to not just, coaches and like athletic staff, but also the people that they work with. Right? Like, what is the athletics finance office doing? But I think most importantly, and I feel like it only got touched on briefly in the way that we're thinking about like, oh, students are transferring and like, you know, NIL and all of that. But like students are our business and we should be much more concerned about the impact of this on student athletes, not just in the football program, because when there's a thing in athletics that it is a ripple effect, right? So this is gonna impact other programs not tied to football. Um, so I see that there's a really important need to like actually talk to people, particularly if this is the case where, oh, well, everyone knew. If everyone knew, why wasn't something done sooner, right? Like, why did it take this for us to now say, oh, well, now we're going to fire him? Um, and so I think that that's a really important issue to get to the root at. Does it, is it that people felt like they couldn't say something? Were people afraid of retaliation, right? Like, I think that there's a need to really understand the culture of the football program, but also athletics more broadly
So
before we can even
you
talk
want to do a
about. Mhm.
you want to do a climate assessment?
Yes, right. Before we can even get into what needs to change, right? Who needs to go, and because automatically it's people need to get fired and that's how we show accountability. No, because it doesn't change the behavior or the environment in which this thing was allowed to happen in the first place. So I think that
So
that's,
I
yeah,
guess so let's pull on that thread a little bit, right? So you don't just end up there.
right.
There has to be something going on in the culture of your institution that allows misconduct to flourish. So how do you root that out and actually do something about it?
How do you root it out? The
Yeah,
fact
so
that
like if the if so I'm thinking about it, right? We study organizations, I study socialization and mentoring, I study belonging.
organizational change, yes.
Yeah, like so what are if I'm coming into this situation, I'm like, hey, I gotta really get to the root of this. I think you gotta start with leadership. But then maybe you don't start with the leadership. Maybe you start with the frontline workers. Maybe you start with the people who have that long institutional history. The secretaries, the residence hall coordinators, the low level people who have like direct interaction with the athletes. So you can figure out like where are the cultural messages about how we're treating each other and how we're allowed to behave coming
Hmm.
from, and how are they reinforced, and what's the incentive system for people to subscribe to this. I think that's where I would start, because if you start at the top, all it's musical chairs for senior leadership in academia, and that's also with football coaches. The football coach of a large state institution is often the highest paid state employee in that entire state, and it's musical chairs. They do something wrong, they just get fired and they get replaced. Same thing with institutional leaders like presidents. Oh, your controversy is enough that we're gonna kick you out the door. Then you just
And
go get
someone else is
another
like,
one.
that's fine. You can come over
Yeah,
here and do what you were doing there before. You
yeah,
know,
and so it doesn't mean that like changing the person in the seat doesn't change the institutional culture. And so I think that that's part of what you have to get to the root of.
I think it is I think it is necessary to talk to those people because they have so much power and influence. And I agree with what you said that um they're not the only group that has the ability to shape institutional culture. I think you have to talk to all of those people. I think you need to, whether it's like, hey, we're just going to survey all of our student athletes, for example, and ask about, trust and culture and safety and leadership, right? And I think too, and again, we've been on many institutional campuses where we've had conversations with students who are like, oh no, this is how it really works, right? Um, and getting that information, I think, is an important step. I think the thing that comes after and where leadership does matter is that to really implement any kind of significant organizational change takes people at every level. Like it can't just be top down, and it also can't just be, you know, students protesting and like that's gonna change the way the organization works. Not to say student protests aren't important. They are a very important form of free speech on campuses. I support that, but that is not enough. Like it has to be leadership, including, president boards. That's like another place where I haven't heard a whole lot in this story. Like, what is Michigan's board doing? Like, where are they at?
Board of trustees stepping into, I mean, if the board is
Besides
just
firing
stepping in to
people,
say, don't embarrass us and we're going to fire you or replace you, I think
that's
that's a
not
problem.
enough.
Because, I mean, also, in what ways have boards been trained? Maybe we got to talk to Dr. Felicia Commodore,
Oh, that
Scholar
would be
shout
great.
out. Yeah,
Yes,
but like, in what ways have boards been trained to respond to scandals in ways that are actually going to protect the integrity of the institution?
exactly. And the idea that oh, well, we won't tolerate that, right? So you do something bad, the person gets fired. That does nothing to prevent the action or activity or behavior that led to the thing in the first place. Again, and I think that so many of our institutions and organizations are focused on, I think like you were saying, right? Like we're going to punish the individual. It's like the whack-a-mole. Like, oh, this thing happened. This person is a bad person. We're going to get rid of that person. That doesn't, the soil is still fertile for bullshit to flourish.
Yeah. So I guess I mean, that's the lasting piece too, because I think the institutional accountability piece and the personal accountability piece are often so far away from each other. Like if you're, this unfortunate coach who's got caught out there from a series of really bad decisions, what you need to do to rebuild your life might not necessarily be available to you because of the way that you chose to deal with this. But you rebuilding your professional life, at least in my opinion, is a lot less interesting and important than you rebuilding your personal life. Like, what are the ways that you're going to create avenues to still be present and available for your children? Like, how do you stop
Assuming he doesn't go
from,
to jail.
I mean, he might go to jail, but even if he does go to jail, it's going to be relatively, unfortunately, I have a lot of familiarity with people who are justice involved, let us say. Like
Justice
he not
involved
going to,
individuals.
yeah, he not going away for that long. He might miss a couple of years if he does get, and he's got enough bread at least, hoping that
Right.
he's made
He'll
some
be able
decent
to
financial
pay
decision. He's making 5 million a year,
for
like he
good
should be able to
lawyers.
pay. Yeah, so you got to figure it out. Like, yo, how do I make sure? Assuming that he wants that too, because unfortunately, what I'm projecting a little bit is like as a father. if I found myself in a controversial situation and I had three children that I still wanted to be actively involved in their lives, then it's like, what's the path back to a relationship with their mother that allows them to be in my life? Because
Hmm.
the justice and legal system is slanted against men and fathers in general. And if she makes the decision like, yo, F
Absolutely not.
you, you will
Hmm.
never see them again. I, that means that you have an uphill battle just to do
Prove.
something that you probably have taken for granted, right? Like
Hmm.
I I find it difficult because of how important to my identity being a father is. And even like before that husband, like one of the greatest issues for me in the wake of our divorce was just the identity crisis. Like if I'm not Marjorie's husband and I'm like, then who am I? Like if I'm not like parenting my children in this family unit, then like what does that actually look like? I think there's a lot of rebuilding and repair that's going to be necessary that people aren't really necessarily thinking about. And I'm like, man, say he's an amazing dad, right? For all his BS and all the
Yeah.
unfortunate, embarrassing stuff that's going on, like, what if he's an amazing dad? Like, how do you get back to your family? Like, how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to create another huge rupture? But also, like, how do you get back to being dad?
Yeah. I feel like I think the accountability piece feels really important. And for example, minor aside. So like, in the story, it says that the affair person reported the affair to the institution. Is that
Oh yeah, because so it sounds like, and this is just based on publicly available information and my interpretation of it, and so please don't sue us.
allegedly?
Yeah, but it sounds like he was given an ultimatum. It was basically like, hey, we know about this. This is getting out of hand. So you have options. You could either fire Shorty or you could reassign her, but like this can't continue to go on. And he was like, oh yeah, fire her. And she was like, fire me? Well, in that case, I need
You
to
can get fired.
exactly. Yeah. So
No. What?
yeah. And so again, it's like there's so many crazy layers that you have to kind of ignore the details to get to the so like I have plenty of
Ooh.
instances and even like, things that have happened to me where it's like, you wouldn't believe the details of this
Oh.
if you didn't live it. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you weren't actually a like, hey, wait, no way, no way. You did what? And then with who? And then what? And then like the truth is stranger than fiction.
I guess it's also, it feels like, Shorty, like you came up in ways that, I mean, you benefited from this personal relationship. You
I mean,
have
but
to
that's
know
also
you
the
benefited from this personal relationship. And that wasn't enough? Like
so let's go down that path, right?
your
Because
doubled salary wasn't enough?
I think that that's an interesting thing to explore that people also won't really be honest about, right? So a lot of times, whether you're in an affair person situation or you're in an above board relationship, a lot of relationships are based on the exchange. Like, hey, I'll exchange my free time for,
For a higher salary.
yeah, like I'll exchange these buns for that
Dinner
Birkin
and
bag.
dinner and dates,
Yeah,
right?
like,
Like
hey, like take me on dates, take me on
yes,
like you get what you want, I get what I want,
right.
right?
And then it seems that comes to an end
And
and
if
we
you're a
go
real
our
one,
separate
then it just,
ways.
yeah, like if you're a real one, it's just like, hey, that was fun. We were both getting what we wanted from the situation, and now we're gonna go our separate ways.
It has come to
But
an end.
yeah, but like if you have that, and I think it's difficult because one, we could connect this to all kinds of parenting conversations because like kids don't talk enough, they don't date, they're not having sex anymore, they don't drink. Like there's so many ways that like the ways that you were taught to navigate social situations and also
Oh.
show up with like care and integrity are very different now. It's generationally different. Like people, it's very different having to walk up to somebody in a bar and spark a conversation than it is swiping on an app and matching with somebody.
Texting,
Like the
yes.
yeah, like those are very different skill sets.
The
And
bar
so
thing
I
I feel
think,
like is easier, by the way. Like,
but the development of discernment, right?
okay.
Like have you like, hey, you've been kicking it with this shorty who knows that you're married, that's your coworker for years. You never had the like in case of emergency break the glass conversation?
Right. Like at some point it had to end or maybe maybe she didn't think it was going to end. Maybe
Maybe he
there's
made
that,
promises. Maybe he made
right? They're like,
promises.
oh, oh, I'm going to leave her and like it's so hard but really like having no intention of leaving, right? Like just and I don't know. We're obviously, we are speculating here about what their relationship was. There's something about, is it ungratefulness, greed, pettiness? Maybe it's all of those things.
I mean, but it's like there's a. I have to burn this to the ground. Like if I'm not getting if I'm not getting what I want,
Fuck
I gotta
it.
burn this whole thing to the ground. Like that's a
Where's
very
my stapler?
yeah,
I took
that's a
the stapler
very
on her way out.
it's a very different situation,
Just,
yo.
was it Office Space? Yes.
Exactly. Like if you
They say, hey, you gotta move down to the basement. You got this office and the salary you have. We're gonna wrap that up. You can just work for
yeah,
free.
but and it's
And
also
she
like
said,
the
where's my stapler? And I'm burning this bitch to the ground.
yeah, and it's also the like, did you ever really have my back? Like,
Mm.
did you ever really like if at the first sign of personal loss for you, it's I gotta go to them folks and get you fired.
And another part which is not talked about, and again, we don't know, but I'm always curious about the dynamics of interracial relationships,
Hmm.
especially in 2025, where racism is alive and well and like upheld as a, a moral.
No, MAGA wants to make it
Social.
normal. Like
Yes, like it is
they
a
want to
thing
normalize
that
it.
is acceptable and okay. In fact, another tiny side. Oh, what's his name? Vivek. Mm,
Ramaswamy.
yes. Sorry. So I was listening to NPR and they were reporting on the fact that he is trying to advocate for the GOP and Republican Party to condemn racism. That even has to be a conversation is crazy. And that
I
you
don't
are part of a group where you feel like, hey, like we're really leaning into this racism thing and like I want to be in this group, but I am not white, so I can't be a part of this group. But like I just it's such an interesting thing, right? So getting back to the coach is like he is a black man. He is a black football coach and a head football coach, which is an accomplishment because there still aren't that many.
have you watched the
And
new Chappelle special yet?
is it what?
Have you watched the new Chappelle special yet?
No.
Oh, you need to go to Netflix immediately after we get off of here and
Okay.
watch it
Okay.
because there is a connection to a conversation that I would love to have that is relevant to this.
Okay.
And I
About
think
the
that
interracial relationships?
absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that part of it too is that white women are seen as a status symbol by some black men.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, like I know a lot of unfortunately, I know enough anti-black black men where it's like, oh, I can't date black chicks. And you're like, well, why? That
Why?
doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Um, but I also know people who like somebody's gonna find fault with what you do no matter what. So like I was married to a black woman. I am now married to a Latina woman.
You only
There are
have one
people
black
who
wife, Michael?
exactly like like oh you just abandoned black women after I was like nigga I got 2 kids and 10 years of marriage. You better get off my dick. Like I don't give a fuck what you have to say about that. And it's not a. I think there's a difference when it's like yo. Here are my preferences. These are things that I'm not interested in. I haven't
Hmm.
foreclosed black women as partners. It just I happen to match with somebody that was not. I think that's a very different situation than like, yo, this cat has a type. Like he likes, he likes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
When I saw the
And
pictures, I was like, oh,
yeah,
oh.
and what you do with that type is different because I think that there's a way in which you could be judgy, but there's also a way in which you could be like, all right, like I'm not going to tell anybody who to love. I'm not going to tell anybody like what their situation was. I also think that like my perception of him from the outside looking in is like this is probably a cat who was kind of corny and wasn't getting a rhythm from
Black girls.
Shorty's it.
So
Yeah. And so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go with who likes me. Like, and I don't see that as a problem in general.
no.
I think there are too many people who are trying to chase down what the ideal person in their head is, or who like they're lonely because who they like doesn't like them. Well, like,
Mm.
how about you give a try to people who actually like you?
That's fair. I guess you know what? It's something that I think about a lot with Maximilian. And so we live in Columbia, Missouri. It is predominantly white, and there is a very teeny tiny, itty bitty, small black middle class community, of which I think we know almost everyone. So for him to, he's getting to the age where like dating and that kind of thing starts to happen. For him to date a black girl from a similar background as his, he has very few options.
How many kids in Colombia have two parents with PhDs? That's not, of course,
I'm even
with
just thinking
background.
like, you know, obviously like Jack and Jill comes to mind, right? Like
Hmm.
black families with means and money and like, we travel. Everybody's got passports. Like we go on trips. We go see shows and plays and theater and like he's cultured. Like there are all of these things that are part of his life and lived experience. And not to say that he couldn't meet somebody who had a different lived experience, but the likelihood that they're going to have these things in common is less likely, right? But
Sure,
who does?
he gotta wait
White
till
girls. There are
college.
lots of white girls that do have these similar, right? Musical theater.
Oh, I didn't know that that was the direction you were going.
But
I was going the direction of wait till college.
which is fair too, but it's a thing that I try to it's not to
Are you
say you can't, but I think you need to be careful. That's what it is. You need to be careful. If this is something you're going to pursue, like I think anybody in an interracial relationship, like the fact that y'all are of different races is going to be significant, even if it's not to you, it is in the world that you live in. And like, how are you going to navigate that? What does that mean for how you behave in public? We had a conversation about, if you and I get in an argument in public, that's one thing, versus like if you and Donna get in an argument in public. And like people are looking at that very differently.
Oh, it's funny because we laugh about that all the time. So if me and you are out eating, nobody asks if we're splitting the check. They just bring me the bill. If me and Donna are out, they ask if we're splitting. If we're in the Midwest, they ask if we're splitting the check every single time.
Oh,
Like
still
I could be
really?
like this and have her hand over mine with her wedding ring, but hey, are you
You
guys on
splitting
the
it?
same ticket? Yeah, and it's like little things like that. Like, oh, you couldn't. It's not even computing to you that we could possibly be a married couple because you, unless we're out with Maya. That's the only way that that
Oh,
kind of gets
then she feels
bypassed.
like a connector.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
oh, this little girl looks like him, but is a little bit lighter, and like we see okay, they created something together. But
Okay.
I think it's interesting for you because I also think I would never want to narrowly constrain my son's dating choices, and I feel like to try to do so would just create rebellion. Like if I'm like, hey, don't date white chicks, and he's like, yo, dad, like, have you been in the kitchen of Colombia? There's nothing else to eat here. Like you
Yeah,
gotta
that is so
like,
I wouldn't say it that way, but I do think be careful. Like if this is something that you're gonna do, you need to be mindful of a lot of things, right? Like,
yeah,
the your friends at school could be cool. We don't know their families. Like that's a whole other, especially in Columbia, Missouri, right? Like another thing to navigate.
yeah. I think the academic way to approach it is to talk about the racial caste system in the United States and like what it means to be a black man, and that like many black men have lost their lives
Hmm.
unfairly because of proximity to black women, and especially black women, or not black women.
White women.
Many black men have lost their lives because of proximity to white women, whether things are above board or not. And so,
Right.
like sharing Emmett Till, sharing just stories about like this is the way that this is set up. These are the excuses that racists and people who don't see you as a full human being use to do damage to your body. There is a certain terrorism that we're still exposed to as black men in this country, and not that we haven't had these conversations and these aren't consistent things, but if you think about Trayvon Martin, if you think about George Floyd, if you think about all the countless examples of black life being treated as less than, a lot of times that like you can't put yourself in these situations because for as much progress has been made, these are still things that you have to be concerned about as a black
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. I remember Maxwell had like just been born when um the Trayvon Martin uh was murdered by George Floyd, and I remember thinking Oh my God, we have brought this little black boy, now I'm like getting emotional, um, into this world and like we can do everything right. He can be an amazing kid and he is still going to go outside into a world where people are going to look at him and see nothing but a threat. And it was so frustrating that, as a parent, we all want what's best for our kids. And yet we are still, and probably even more so now than then, in a time where you are seen as less than and dehumanized simply because you have more melanin.
Yeah, and you got to be careful. So, Trayvon Martin's murderer was George Zimmerman.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
We got a little cross there, but I think it's still valuable, and the emotional resonance is real. It's that we're people who've studied the organization of society. We're people who have followed the rules and done everything right. We're people who have gone to school and got the degree and used the degree to get the job. But our lives and the lives of our children are still in danger. And in fact, the current federal administration is trying to return to a sense of even more danger and terrorism, just because your skin is different. And so, like ICE, it's unfortunate all the all the Latinos that voted for Trump, and he turned on them immediately. Like, right? It's like, hey, oh,
No,
you like me? ICE raid, gotcha,
what was
right?
gonna happen? It's very
But
confusing.
I think that that's one of the things. And so there's always this fine line that you're walking as a parent about what kind of information can I give you to improve your life, but also to give you as much optimism about like what hard work and focus can get you, while also recognizing that this society was not set up for you to be victorious as a black child, but especially
Mhm.
not a black male child. Um, and if you're gonna, you have to be very careful about what you bring to your doorstep through your
And a
actions and your behaviors.
dark-skinned black male child. Our
Yeah,
son he loves how blackity black he is, and I love
he
how
does.
much he loves how blackity black he is.
Yeah, he's been taught to be like prideful about that. And I think
Yes.
it's a beautiful thing. But I think, and we can kind of wrap on this because it connects back to our broader conversation about the Michigan coach. You're a black man, your standards for behavior are a lot higher. And don't think for a second, just because you've got one of the best jobs in your profession, that you aren't one dumb mistake away from losing everything. Because there's so many people who think you didn't deserve it and that you
Hmm.
shouldn't have been in that seat to begin.
Yep.
And especially if it involves white women. Like, you got to be careful.
Message.
You got to be careful. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate like feeling it apart a little bit because yeah, there's so many different avenues that you could go down as it relates to this. But I do think ending on we have to be careful about how we raise our kids. We have to be careful about what accountability really means and like accountability in context, like accountability at work, accountability at family, accountability as it relates to dating.
And accountability, I think, of our organizations and institutions too, right? Because again, this was allowed to get to this point by the organization. So like
Yeah. By
that
bystanders who are letting crazy fly. And
yeah.
that's really a huge piece of it. But appreciate you guys rocking with us. Glad we got to actually jump into this because we've been texting and giggling about the whole situation for about a month. We had to go ahead and bring it to the pod. But appreciate you. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parents and Professors podcast.
Peace.
If this conversation resonated with you, do us a huge, huge, huge favor. Like the episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on all our socials. I actually be going crazy on Instagram, so that's the best one.
And please feel free to drop a comment below. Tell us what you liked, what you hated, where you'd like us to dig deeper, or even if you think we missed something. We're always learning and growing, and we want to make sure that we're creating content that resonates with viewers like you.
And most importantly, and this is a huge one, if you know somebody who could benefit from hearing the conversations that we're having on this episode, please share. Sharing is caring. We're doing this for the love and to build a community because it matters.
And at the end of the day, that's the most important part, creating spaces where we can have real, honest conversations about the things that matter to you: education, parenting, relationships, and everything in between.
So thanks for being part of our community. Go check out the catalog of other episodes if you haven't. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Parents and Professors podcast.